Yeah, come on up there.
Hi, Adya.
Hi.
I'm Samantha.
Hi, Samantha.
And I sent you an email this winter about feeling like I am dying, which you very nicely addressed on a webcast, and that was really helpful.
And so how's the dying going?
Well, that's kind of what I'm here to talk to you about.
I thought it might be.
When I sent that email, I was trying to be really brief so that you would address it. And what I've been experiencing since probably about September. I'm sorry if I cry.
No, don't be sorry. It's real stuff here.
It's truly the suicidal tendency.
Mm-hmm.
Every time conflict arises, I find myself wanting to jump in my car and drive it into the river, to be immersed under the cold water and dissolve into it.
Mm-hmm. And what's that impulse? What is it? Where's it coming from?
Well, my rational mind knows that it's metaphorical for, hopefully, the dissolution of...
What about your non-rational mind? the non-smart part of you.
Maybe the conflict's too painful to endure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm exhausted.
Of course, yeah. So what is it within you that wants to die?
At this point, I feel it's every part of me.
Mm. But here you are, so that couldn't possibly be true.
You know, and just since being at the retreat, I have found this incredible compassion towards my ego, which has been beautiful. Prior to Sunday, you know, the rational part of me that kept me, because I actually got in the car quite a number of times and drove towards the icy river. Mm-hmm. And then would stop because I have 3 young children and
it's a good reason.
All these other wonderful things. And then in the past day or whatever it's been, it feels like a lifetime. I have incredible compassion now for my ego because my ego loves these young people in my life. Mm-hmm. And that's why it hasn't wanted to drive into the river.
Right. Yeah.
But here I am still so torn and exhausted. Mm-hmm. And I just am asking for your help.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So, what you running away from? I'm running away from...
being human?
I'm running away from being human because...
Because being human feels like being on a merry-go-round that I can't get off of.
Ah, okay.
Even this cyclical wanting to die thing feels like a merry-go-round that I can't get off of.
Sure, yeah.
I had a dialogue during one of my meditations this afternoon with God, consciousness, whatever. And it was like, well, you're off the merry-go-round. And I'm like, yeah, but the merry-go-round's still going on inside my head. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, merry-go-round. How do I...
Fighting.
Yeah.
Exhausting, huh? Tiring. Fighting. Yeah. Do you have to fight?
I don't think so. I mean, that's the feeling of going into the abyss that I crave so fully.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Exactly.
It's the not fighting. It's the surrendering part that
right.
I desperately want to go hop in my car and go do.
Yeah, but that's not surrender.
No,
that's avoiding. Do you know what I mean?
I guess so.
Okay, lovely. So now you're starting to give yourself the information you need to hear. Right? That's why I said if you really completely all of you wanted to kill yourself, we wouldn't be talking right now, would we?
I get that.
That would have been done long ago. So obviously there's a part of yourself that just wants to be done with it. That I understand. I think there's many people in this room that have had their own experiences. I'm just so done with life, with this whole thing. I'm done with me. I'm so exhausted. I'm so worn out. I just want to, whatever it is, right? And yet there they are. So at the same time you want to die, and something doesn't really want to die, right? As I said, if you really wanted to die, you wouldn't be here. So, but you are here, fast, right? So that tells me, and it tells you something so very vital. That there's something in you that wants to surrender, that wants to let go. You told me that. That's what you really want to do. You just think that, driving your car into the icy depths of the water is going to help you to do that.
Well, no, I know it's not. I get, I sort of laugh at the illusion of it as I get in my car and I'm like, this is hysterical.
Yeah. Right.
But then it happens again.
Yeah. So can you really get in touch with that part of yourself that simultaneously it really wants to just be done with it all? And that can either mean in a given moment it can mean surrender, and in another given moment it can mean I just want to end it all. But that part of you that's just worn out. See? Because what I'm saying is that part of you that's just worn out, wants it to be over with. See, so most people, if someone says, I've had suicidal thoughts in my head at times, they get totally panicked, right? Oh my God, we got to do something about you. There's something terrible that's happening, I actually look at it in a very different light. I look at it as, okay, well and good. There's something that in you that wants to die. Now that's not so unusual. You've been overwhelmed by it. You don't know how to respond to it. You don't know how to be with it. So it overwhelms you and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it turns into sort of at moments this suicidal impulse. But in its essence, it's a part of you that's just holding on so hard. And the thing that's holding on wants to let go so bad, right? It wants to let go, but it has no idea how to let go. Yeah. Right? And so that's where the conflict comes in.
Exactly.
Right? And so I'm saying, so many people would be afraid of that, right? They want to get away, they want to solve it. Let's do something about that. I'm just the opposite. What is that? What if you bring it close to you? You're not trying to let go. You're just being very deep and intimate with what wants to let go. It's only when you kind of push it away that it overwhelms you. When you bring it close, then there's a sort of a compassion about it. Do you know? There's a compassion for something that's in that much conflict. A part of you. It's not all of you by any means. It's actually a very small part of you, but it can seem to be very big at times. So there's a part of you that feels contracted, overwhelmed, isolated, afraid. very, very fearful. And I'm just suggesting you just invite that part to be very, very close. No one can welcome it home but you. No one can totally do it. Right? It's a part of you that has been estranged, that's been sort of cast out. Who knows for what reason? Who knows why it feels like it's so cast out? But it's a part of you that you are bringing back close to you. It's like bringing it back in the fold. I know it can seem overwhelming, but it's only overwhelming when you always notice that when that sort of suicidal impulse starts to feel quite pronounced, there's a real terrible isolation about it, isn't there? There's a terrible, nobody can ever understand this. I feel so estranged from life. Do you know? And it's that part. That's when I say you're bringing that close. That which has been estranged, cast aside, you're bringing it very close. Which means you're just sort of feeling into what it really is. Because the whole suicidal thing, that's just the exterior, isn't it?
Yeah, I get that.
That's of course it can have great consequences if it gets too overwhelming, but it's basically the exterior. And when we bring it close, then you get inside the exterior. What's in there? What's that experience? Do you know? What's inside that? There's often that sense of isolation, right? And whatever there is. It could be just sorrow. And you just kind of allow that to experientially unfold itself.
I feel like I try that. I lie on the floor and weep, trying to access it. And yet, I haven't found it. And maybe I'm trying too hard.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. When it's ready, it just comes to you. So, what does that part of yourself, what's the experience of it in this moment?
I'm not sure I understand which part of myself you're talking about.
The part of yourself that wants to drive the car into the river, the lake, that wants to be done with it all.
Well, in truth, it's not actually happening right this moment. It happens almost like an automatic response to conflict. Mm-hmm. Almost like when my husband and I have what's coming on as an argument, instead of engaging in the argument, I just need to exit and dissolve. Mm-hmm. And that happens by getting in my car and driving away, thinking about heading towards the river.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so...
so what is it about conflict like that? What is it about that? What do you experience in that moment? So a discussion starts to turn a little argumentative, that conflict energy starts to creep in. What do you feel inside? What's happening?
Separation.
Yeah. Right. It's like some big pair of scissors went up and cut the energetic cord, right? And you're very sensitive to that, right? You're extraordinarily sensitive to those. Some people aren't sensitive at all. They don't even know when it's happening. They know they're upset, but they don't know why. But you feel that, and that's very painful if you can feel that really intimately, isn't it?
Incredibly.
It's like something goes snip, and inside you're just like, ouch. That's so painful to feel that separation, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when It all sort of blossoms from that place, doesn't it? As soon as you feel that separation.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right. Just imagine you could just stop at that moment. Just imagine.
What, before the separation?
No, right in the middle of it. And you felt it. Right at the moment that you felt it. And you feel separate and cut off and estranged. And you felt it. And you just stopped right there. And you just said, it could be you said it in yourself or said it aloud, who knows. That, what I'm experiencing right now is the pain of separation. That's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm experiencing.
In some ways, that's part of my fear of actually fully being awake, is this idea of in being awake, of feeling the separation as well as the unification of everything simultaneously.
Oh, well, the more aware you become, what you become aware is that even if that kind of energetic tie is severed, what you're aware of is no separation happens.
Oh, cool.
It's impossible.
Oh, good.
Someone could turn around, they could love you one day and hate you the next day, they could argue with you, they could do whatever they want, but the only thing they could never do is become separate from you. There is more of a human relative experience where you can feel that the energetic, when that energetic kind of human relative experience of connectedness, you can feel that. I can feel that when that's cut off, however it gets cut off. But what I experience now is that is a very relative kind of relative. That doesn't mean I'm diminishing it, but it's a relative sort of human experience. And even when that happens, there is no actual disconnect. Everything is what it is. Everything is life as such. Everything is spirit. It is that way. There's no separating it out. There is the experience of it being separated out, connected and disconnected. But there's not an actual, really true disconnection from anything, anywhere, no matter what happens. And my sense is something in you, just on the tip of your consciousness, it's between conscious and unconscious, there's a part of you that actually knows that experiences that. Just right on the sort of boundary of your conscious awareness. You know? Because that's part of human life, isn't it? People are always like coming in and going, "Ooh, I like you." Plug in. Okay, connected. Zzz, feels really good. And then they're changing their mind. Oh no. Let me go home. You know? And the strange thing is, the people who you're the closest to are the people that you'll rip the cord most violently out of. Connection. Like, I'm going home. You know, somebody in the grocery line says something that offends you or something, you're just kind of like, okay, gee, you must have got up on the wrong side of the universe. They've sort of disconnected energetically from you, from their point of view, but it doesn't bother you, does it? But when it's somebody you really love, we reserve our deepest, most devastating forms of disconnect for those who are close to us, those who are dear. And often there is, having had, one grows up, there's experiences. And sometimes, very often, many, many people have had experiences of feeling very, very disconnected in a way, often at a time that they were quite young. And it really set a deep sort of sense of woundedness about disconnect. Where the disconnect really seemed to sort of cut to the bone because you're so innocent and so sort of simple and so, in a certain sense, so dependent, right? Because when we're very, very young, we're very, very dependent on having the right connections around us to feel okay and safe and stable and all of that, And we have those experiences, and some people have much greater ones than others, that in some ways some vital kind of disconnection happens or happened, and sometimes it's quite abrupt. And it can set up that pattern of where disconnect, you're actually re-experiencing a very, very sort of traumatic event. When you really needed that, because for a long time it's very important that we have that energetic connection. And many human beings, it gets severed or they don't have it in the measure that they would like to or whatever. But so then later in life, each time you feel that energetic cut, you're not often experiencing that moment. You're experiencing another moment when you were so much more vulnerable and it was so much more painful. You're actually experiencing the past in the present. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's really, it's extraordinarily common in life. It's not an unusual thing, As adults, most of us adults, we're not really often aware enough to know the absolute, we don't know what we're doing. That's basically we don't really understand. So sometimes we'll rip, without even knowing it, we'll rip some vital sort of energetic connection away from someone or something. And it's one thing when you're to do it to an adult. It's a whole other thing when you do it with somebody that's very, very young, because they're so open and so sensitive, and they literally can feel almost like you're just tearing their flesh in half, ripping their heart out of them. Because there's a vitality link, isn't there, when we're really, really young. As part of maturing, if everything goes in the ideal way, which rarely happens, but if everything went in the ideal way, we realize that although that kind of connection is beautiful, that we realize that we're not defined. We don't need to define ourselves or even our connectedness through that sort of energetic cord. It's there or it's not there. But we develop that capacity to, like I said, there's nothing you could possibly do that would ever in any dimension make me sense that you were anything other than what I am or separate. On a human level, we could have a deeper, a more or a less energetic connection, right? Because that's like you plug in. Hi, how are you? Okay, you, and of which so many people aren't aware of. But we could have that. But the vital unity, never. But since it doesn't go the ideal way most of the time, there's a way in which like I said, there's a way in which there's I don't know quite the right word, but you sort of you now. You can reconnect that vitality link, that energetic connection with that which feels overwhelmed, that which just cannot handle it when you hit conflict or something, because it's just re-energizing something that's very old, And that which is really old, it's looking for its vitality link. It's looking for its connection. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It's looking for that. And it's just, where is it? And everywhere it plugs in, anywhere it can find, But people are constantly unplugging it or cutting it or ripping it, and it just reminding it of how isolated it is. But you, in a sort of way that I can't describe for you, it's an intuitive thing. But it's like when you really embrace that part of yourself, it's like you reconnect. You reconnect. You've reconnected to that part of yourself that got very disconnected. Only you can do it in a way that nobody can ever take away from you. Nobody can ever take it away from you. Do you know?
I do.
That's the compassion part. That's the love part. You know? It's like, of course you want to do that. Anybody that had experienced what you experienced they would want to do that. They would have their own way of wanting to just, I can't live without that connectedness.
That's why I fantasize about, merging.
Yeah, I know. Because when we're young, merging is a very important thing for us. To feel merged, to feel part of, to feel connected. That's what the merging is, right? Even though unity is not the same as merging, unity is seeing that which is one. There is no taking it apart. Whether you disconnect on all the energetic levels or not, the one never becomes other than one. That's sort of it's a much deeper level of connectedness than merging. But if there's that part of you that needs that essential merging experience, then you're the only one that can give it to that. That's the compassion. That's the love.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It connects back into your heart. Because that's what it's looking for. And when it doesn't get it, it gets terrified and overwhelmed and says, I've had it. This is too much. Okay?
Thank you.
You get the feel of it?
Yeah.
Now, I know I haven't given you
Not fully, but I'm getting there.
But there's not a 1, 2, 3 step plan, I know. But you'll find it. It's an intuitive thing. You'll kind of find it just with the basic idea, the basic feeling of that importance at certain times in our experience to reconnect with that which feels disconnected. To reestablish that thing. And people disconnect on all parts. Harmed part of their self, hurt part of themselves, traumatized part of themselves, or they can disconnect from just sort of unique parts of themselves that nobody understood, or it can go in all sorts of different directions. And it doesn't matter how much transcendence you do, that piece is going to be there until you let it make the vitality link it's looking for. And it's looking for it from you, from your heart. Right? It's the only place you can get it. And when it's connected to you, when all parts of you are reconnected to you, then when it becomes what we call us, and it's connected or not connected, it's not linked into that old part, that old piece of you. Because that part of you is already totally connected. It's connected with your heart. The only thing that could have really happened anyway.
I get that.
Yeah, and so that might be difficult at times, but it won't be then like overwhelming. Because you won't have left yourself. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me know how it goes, will you? Drop me email, write me a letter, say, hey, we talked, something.
Okay. Thank you.
I spent a lot of time I've spent a lot of time just because you were here, but it's also because almost, I would say probably 95%, maybe 98% of human beings, there's often parts of themselves that they're very disconnected from, that they're in isolation, that they're very pushed aside. And often one of the main reasons they're involved in spirituality is so they can transcend those parts and never have anything to do with them and feel really free and enlightened anyway. And while it is true that you can transcend all that, you can go right beyond it, you don't have to be identified, it doesn't define you, it's not who or what you are, and all that's true, and you can have everything in general until those aspects of your being that feel disconnected get reconnected. And it's just a reconnectedness through, you're no longer actually pushing them out. You're no longer being estranged from them. You're just sort of turning back to them, like, do you know? You're just turning back towards them. That's what compassion is. You're not being phony. I'm just going to love you to death. I'm going to love you until you're gone. Till I never experience you again. Have any of you tried that? I mean, you don't think of that, but that's the phony kind of thing. It's basically, oh yes, I'll be compassionate. And in the background, you're really saying, I'll love it to death so it's never here. But you know, it knows that. And that doesn't work. That's phony. That's not real love. There's no real love, real compassion. There's no trying to get rid of anything. Nothing. Nothing. So any part of yourself that you've pushed aside is that part which will keep pulling you back from whatever place of revelation you're in. It will, in some way or another, keep pulling you back as if to say, no. Remember, nothing gets left behind. Nothing. Maybe temporarily, but not ultimately. Nobody actually gets the option of leaving any piece of themselves, any part behind. Whether you deem it illusory or real or unreal, it really actually doesn't matter. Nothing gets left behind.